good evening all, and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us for what is something of a stopgap video, due to an unlikely confluence of circumstances involving an infant, two excitable Australian shepherds, a piece of cheesecake, the top of my left foot, and a large screwdriver. The main hard drive where all my photos live has had to be sent away for data recovery, so the short-term future of the channel is a bit in flux until I get that back. I think most of the time is just going to be dedicated to working on a few longer video scripts. Tonight, then, we are taking a quick look at the next in Corvette's line of eminently successful GT racers, the C6.R GT2, with an extended video to come when I have the rest of my photos back. The C6.R GT1 had been one of the defining vehicles of the late GT1 era, but the expense and speed of the class that drew so much spectator interest also proved its demise, and by 2009, manufacturers were largely shifting to the more economical GT2 class, with Corvette among the last factory squads to leave the class, them on a high note with a class win at Le Mans, their sixth. Immediately after the 2009 race, Corvette debuted the GT2 iteration of the car that had been in development since 2008, contesting the rest of the season with their new car in preparation for a full 2010 season entry in the ALMS and at Le Mans. The GT2 regulations, of course, require vehicles to be more closely tied to their production line counterparts than the GT1s, and to this end, the new C6R tied its styling more closely to the ZR1 road model of the car. A lighter hydroformed aluminum frame derived from the road cars replaced the GT1's custom steel unit, and the aerodynamics were substantially less aggressive, particularly around the front splitter and rear wing, which reduced downforce and improved general drivability. Mechanical changes included a smaller engine, initially a detuned 6-liter V8 derived from the 7-liter GT1 powerplant, and down another 120 horsepower to now only 470. It's worth remembering, of course, that the GT1's powerplant was also reined in substantially from the engine's actual potential output, which was reportedly somewhere in the 800 horsepower region, but be that as it may. The GT1's carbon brakes were replaced with steel units, per regulation actually, as the ZR1 shipped with carbon ceramic brakes. Calipers were still sourced from Brembo, and these changes allowed Corvette racing manager Doug Feehan to claim that the GT2's more road car-esque looks were, and I quote, because it fundamentally is one. Yeah, except for the 200 kilo weight loss, lack of supercharger, carbon fiber bodywork, extract sequential manual, steel tube roll cage, and 170 fewer horsepowers. But who's keeping track? Okay, to be fair, I am, but that's kind of the point of the video. They did keep the steering components from the road car, so they've got that going for them. And of course, suspension was double wishbones with coil springs and shock absorbers. The new GT2 ran the back half of the 2009 ALMS season as a sort of shakedown cruise, but still managed to take 3 podiums and a win in class before they reworked the car significantly for 2010's GT2 regulations. This meant that the engine was replaced with a new, in-house built 5.5-liter V8, still making 470 horsepower, and there were some bodywork modifications, helpfully illustrated in this graphic I found quite a while ago on Reddit. There was a slight redesign to the exhaust, and the fender flares around the front wheel were also subtly redesigned. However, with the new decade came new struggles for the team. Faced with much greater and more diverse competition than they had in the waning years of GT1, 2010 saw only a single win in the ALMS, and late race mechanicals sidelined them at Le Mans. 2011 brought more updates, most significantly a paddle shift transmission, along with some suspension and engine updates, and more visibly a new roof camera and rear diffuser. GT2 was now called GTE, but the name change didn't greatly change the team's fortunes, with the ALMS again yielding only a single class win, but a hard-fought battle with Ferrari at La Sarthe went the way of the Corvette squad in the closing hours to see the number 73 Corvette racing car win GTE Pro, and L'Arbre Competition win GTE AM in their car as well. 2012 was the last year of updates for the car, taking advantage of rule changes to widen the vehicle and update the aerodynamics, improving stability further at high speeds, as well as mechanical grip. Le Mans that year did not go according to the factory squad's hopes, and both cars finished mid-pack in GTE Pro, while L'Arbre did at least manage a repeat victory in GTE AM. Over in the ALMS, however, the two strong factory cars ran well, and at least one was pretty much always on the podium, sufficient to take the Teams Championship as well as the Drivers' Championship for Ollie Gavin and Tommy Milner. 2013 was the car's final year of competition, with the C7 road car and C7R ready to supplant their respective C6 versions, but that last year for the C6R was at least one of happiness in the ALMS. The final year for that series as well. They won 5 races in class, including the Sebring 12-hour and the final ALMS GT2 Team and Drivers' Championships, this time for Antonio Garcia, or Garcia if you prefer the Castilian semi-lisp, and Jan Magnussen. At Le Mans, however, the cars were rather outclassed by newer machinery, and both the Pro and Am entries qualified quite poorly in their respective classes, running the race as backmarkers and mid-packers. Midwesterners. And finished similarly to end the car's career at Le Sarthe with more of a whimper than a bang, though the C7R would of course reinvigorate the team's competition prospects the following year. For this week's shameless plugs for other videos on the channel, it's kind of like this video, a pretty short list. Just the C6.R GT1 video, and I suppose an explanation of GT classes in general, in case you're wondering, can of course be found in my DEF CON GT video, GT classes explained with nuclear war. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. And for this week's call to action not featuring the 3 sacred words of YouTube,
like, comment, subscribe.
This is a rather peeved Lensler reminding you to have more than one data backup, because you never know when something unexpected might happen, and then you're looking at being out a couple $1,000s for data recovery. Hard drives are relatively cheap, SSDs less so, but SSDs are not as susceptible to gravity, the tops of feet, or the vagaries of dessert-seeking infants. With that, it just leaves it for me to say, as always, thank you for your time this evening, or whenever and wherever you are watching, and to wish you all good night and a good tomorrow.